Welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast, a podcast where we focus on real issues and have real talk, and as always, provide a biblical perspective. We hope that you will be blessed as you listen.
Hello and welcome to the Amazing Truth Podcast. This is the Amazing Truth Minute.
This is the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Like us on Facebook at the Amazing Truth Podcast. The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
For the Truth Minute, we'll focus on Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 3. And it reads, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness, I have drawn you. Has someone ever made an important promise to you, but then wasn't able to keep it? It's devastating, isn't it? In Jeremiah 31, God promised a new covenant to his people. Leading up to that promise, God communicated to Israel that they would be his people, that he would grant them mercy, and he would keep them safe. Time and again, Israel had rebelled against God. They had sought idols and disobeyed the Lord and were far from being worthy of God's kindness. So what motivated God to extend a new covenant? Well, undoubtedly, it was his love. Verse 3 says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. You know, it's difficult for us to wrap our minds around the magnitude of God's love. But he has a long and faithful history of demonstrating his divine love to his people. Regardless of our past, God's love remains steadfast, and he is faithful to keep his promises. And that is the Amazing Truth Minute.
The Amazing Truth Podcast. Real issues, real talk.
All right, Kenan. Welcome back. Thank you for that Amazing Truth Minute.
Yeah.
It says God's love is steadfast, because that's going to be anchor. You know, it's going to be something that's going to anchor
Regardless.
us. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I am doing wonderful. I had a good week. How about yourself, Ezra? How are you doing?
You know, in the context of last week's podcast and the deep dive, I am doing well, and I mean it.
Ezra,
I mean
would
it. I'm
you
doing well.
have said you not well if you were not well?
You know, I'm getting in tune with my emotions a little bit more, because I'm finding that, you know, sometimes I wake up and I meet someone and I don't like the person or whatever happened, because I'm human, right?
Right.
And how you doing? I'm good. You know, you give that fake smile, and you drop someone a chance to really actually be help for you. Like,
Right,
for
true.
example, if someone asked you, "Hi," if you ask me how am I doing and I say I'm not doing well, what would you ever ask next?
Is there anything you don't talk about it?
Yeah. You know, like it automatically invites you to my world.
Right.
Like it invites you to have a conversation with me, right? So sometimes even just a simple answer like, how are you doing, and how I respond to that can invite or close everybody out of my life, you know. So
Yep. And you're in
the question is,
business.
should I have?
Right.
It depends on what I was going through also too, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so but I'm doing well.
And
I'm
we're
doing
learning
well.
to be okay, not to be okay.
Yeah, be
and to
okay, not to be
express
okay.
it. Yeah.
You know, one thing that I always get nervous, I don't know about you, I get nervous about being in this podcast all the time, is because there's a notion that can be created like, I'm perfect, or we know it, or we're talking about these things because we understand. But man, I think this is therapy, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's helping us to read and to rediscover.
Oh yeah, we've read a lot since then,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And even
But
hear the
yeah.
people's stories and learn from them and talk.
Right.
So I think that it's a journey of self-discovery through this experience, and we just want to invite you all, listeners, viewers, to our journey of discovery.
Self-discovery.
Learn yourself, and as we learn together, right?
And we say it, Ezra, we want to ourselves personally to critically think.
Yeah.
You know, when you see something, have that conversation and go dive.
Yeah.
You know, just
I think through it, man. Think through it.
Yeah.
No, now, Kenan.
So what's the topic for today, Ezra?
That's a broad topic. You know, usually we don't have like titles. They come out in the conversation.
Yeah.
But we want to build on last week.
Right.
You know, last week we said hurt people.
Hurt people.
Hurt people.
Yeah.
So today we're going to keep on building on that, saying, okay, then how then can we, you know, be happy people so that we can give happiness or joy and stuff like that. So we're going to keep on that theme because we want to be self-positive, self-reflective. Let me ask you a question, Kenan.
Yes, please.
Have you ever had growing up, did you ever have a moment or a time where you thought that, man, I'm not loved in my family, my home?
Yeah. And most of those times were times when I was being corrected or I didn't get what I wanted. That's when I think, okay, I'm not loved.
You're not loved.
Right.
You know, growing up.
Have you?
I have. The moment too, I felt like my parents were just unfair to me because I was a firstborn.
Yeah.
I perhaps they almost spoiled me because I was the only boy, you know, for a long time. I had 3 sisters after me. There's one sister in particular who we thought will get everything. And one day she looked at us and said, you know, I'm like Joseph, you know, you guys don't love me or something like that. So I think that I asked that question because as we dive into today's talk, there seems to be a misunderstanding between, you know, you find people who love each other to death but cannot stand each other at the same time to death. Have you ever met people like that? Been that experience?
For sure, yeah. They love each other, but they hate each other.
I don't know how that's possible, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
but when you think about the podcast, like can you deduce some of these from the previous podcasts we've done? You hear stories of,
you know, I've had
or the social term, you've used it before.
So stories we've had of families who are together, you know, they loved each other. It was a functional family, but then deep down they were not on speaking terms. You know, it wasn't a conducive place to love and to express love, but they still loved and lived as a family.
Yeah.
So like and there's places where a child was one of the podcasts is, you know, they thought they were being treated unfairly, and then to the parents they thought they were loving them.
Yeah.
But then there was no opportunity for them to express and say I love you, but through their actions. But to the other party, it didn't seem like it was love.
Yeah,
it was, you know, something else.
So would I be wrong if I say that in your social terms, you know, professionally, you will call that you know, your family can be your great support, but at the same the trigger.
Yeah, they can be a great source of support also a great source of extraction.
Source of extraction, right?
Yeah, or trigger you.
Trigger, right? Yeah. It triggers you. So remember, we've quoted this before, the survey that was done, where families were asked questions. Parents were asked, do you love your kids? And they said 100% yes.
Yeah.
And the kids were asked, do you love your parents? They said 100% yes. The question was, do you believe your parents love you? And they both said 100%, and vice versa. But then the following question was like, do your parents understand you? And the number significantly dropped. And vice versa, the parents asked, do you think your children understand you? And the number significantly dropped. Now, I'll be interested to see if somebody was to be surveyed further with that question, how much of misunderstanding causes these behavioral issues we see?
Yeah.
These unhealthy behaviors we see. And so it comes back to me. I'm deducing this, that will I be wrong if I said, Kenan, that love is a language in itself?
Love is a language in itself. And it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking, I'm writing it down, that, you know, understanding someone versus loving someone. And then you say language versus love, and then communication. So just by listening and just by preparing this, I'm thinking now, does this love, it cannot become, it can't come just as love in its organic form. There's things that come with it.
Okay.
There has to be understanding. There has to be communication. So in the sense that if these things they don't come with that love, then it ceases to be love.
Okay. I hear
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
So for us in a family where a spouse is abusive to the other, you know, there's no understanding there. So you can't say that's love.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
For a partner for a child, if my child wants shoes, and there's no provision, then there's no love.
So,
so love doesn't.
You're getting
and I don't want to say it's conditional love, but love is a package.
Okay. Love is a package.
Love is a package.
Is it possible to be romantic but not loving?
Ooh. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't.
You know, it's interesting. I'm just thinking that because I can take you buy flowers,
Yeah.
take you out,
Yeah.
do this, but deep down you're still feeling empty.
You're feeling
still
empty.
feeling uncared for. Still feeling, all this. Is it possible?
Yeah, because then if you buying flowers is fulfilling a need, and you're just fulfilling that need,
Yes.
and you're not loved, then it's not romantic.
So then can we take that and say, is it possible to grow in a home where as a parent you can
Yeah.
be fulfilling a need?
Yeah.
I'm paying bills.
Right.
I'm buying food.
Yes.
I am, taking you to school. Or a child, you can say, I washed my dishes. I cleaned the house. I went to the store or to church or whatever you did. Like you both in the family and everybody's fulfilling these things,
yes.
but everybody's feeling empty.
they're making a family function
Yes.
day to day,
Uh-huh.
but you can't say there's love. There could be, but there's no. You're just fulfilling a need. You're making these wheels turn,
Yes.
but you don't give it the love. You don't push it.
Okay.
You're just making sure that the end goal is
Is
for
met.
these wheels to turn.
Yes.
And whatever happens with that or during that, it's not.
So you can get home and say, did you go to the store? Check. Did you wash dishes? Check.
Yeah.
Did you clean this? Check.
Right.
Did you clean this? Check.
Yes.
You're a nice kid, right?
You're a nice
or you
kid.
can say that. Did you pay my bills? Check. Did you do
Yeah.
this? Check. Did you do this? Check. it's
Oh
like,
yeah, I love you now.
I love you now.
Right.
So then it's like by doing these things, you're expecting the other person to naturally say, I love. But that's why I ask, is love a language?
Love is a language, and there's types of love,
So
love languages.
There's 5 love languages,
Yes,
right? We have
right.
words of affirmation,
Information, yeah. Receiving gift,
receiving gift,
touch,
touch.
yep, and we can Google.
They can Google the rest.
The rest, yeah.
Receiving, touch, words of affirmation,
Acts
acts of service,
yeah. Empathy, yeah.
not
something like that. Word.
So yeah, there are 5.
There are 5.
Clearly, you can see we got 4.
If you know the third, the fifth one, right?
Throw it in there.
Yeah.
Quality time.
Yes,
Spending quality time, right?
Yeah.
So you have a family of 5. One child likes quality time.
yeah,
The other child likes gift.
right.
So you buy all of them gifts and all of them feel loved, but this one is feeling unloved.
Unloved.
Right?
But let me throw a curveball there.
Okay.
But the father or the parent is their love language is giving gifts.
Yes.
So to them, they are fulfilling. They are being loved. They are fulfilling.
That's how they know how to
that's
give
how
love.
they love. But then, so when you find a child does something else,
Yeah.
like I gave you
Everything.
right.
Or when a child looks at the parents and says, I did everything you asked me to do before you went to work. Why am I going through this?
So Ezra, is there a time or is there a situation where these things interact and they intermarry and it's perfect then? With the definitions of what this is.
I don't think so, because I cannot
Is there a
read
perfect
people's
love, Ezra?
I think there is a perfect love, and probably we'll finish on that end.
Right,
But
yeah.
but as we build on this, so then how do you, because at some point somebody has to be sane in this type of relationship.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you realize that the other person, you are not understanding each other, how then do you continue being loving to someone who's struggling?
Struggling.
So for example, my spouse or my partner is alcoholic. When they drink, they become abusive, right? Or when they drink, they they just, things happen, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, but when they're not drunk, they're the best
partner.
spouse or partner that I have.
Yeah.
Like genuinely this person is good. How can I continue being supporting to this person, even though, I'm in that situation? Or it's a parent who's having a child and the child is misbehaving. The child doesn't want to go to school because of what the parent wants. The child doesn't want to do the major that the parents want because that's what they think they should be doing. Or how does this parent continue supporting a child
Right.
who is saying, listen, I love you,
Man.
but How do you continue
I'm just
supporting
picturing this and I'm saying, we'll eventually be in those shoes. I mean, but I'm saying, but I think it goes down to, and you have to answer this as well. It's not a question for me because to me, and this will be a very short answer. It just goes back to me and my understanding of love. That if I would love my child or love someone, and if I don't expect anything in return. I will still provide school fees, or I'll still drop you off. But then if you don't end up in Harvard, I will not get hurt.
So if your child decides to go to a career that they will not, you clearly look at the market and there's no job, and you're paying.
If I love that child, I will let her go.
Okay.
But that takes a lot. That takes a lot, because then you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, you're not going to be able to pay bills. You're not going to be able to support your family. But I have to find it in me to say, okay, I will let you go because I love you. Because of that love I have for you, I will still accept whatever does it. I'm sure when it gets to that point, it will be very difficult for you.
We don't even need to go there. Just look at our spouses in our marriage right now. Like, I love my wife, man. I love my wife. And I don't want to say, but like, there are times where like, really, is that? Right, but if I love her, as I say, I love her.
Yeah.
I should still support.
Yes.
Even though I don't feel, this is hard, man.
Man, this is hard.
Because as I'm having this conversation, I'm saying, listen.
You're playing it in your brain.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe listeners are wondering where we're going with this. I think the deep dive today, we're really talking about, until we understand each other, we can love each other correctly or support each other well. So we see all these dysfunctions in our homes, in our community, because though I buy you flowers as my wife, though I, provide for you as a parent, though I do this, that doesn't necessarily translate to. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
You are, but let me ask you though, Ezra, or let me challenge you though. What comes first though? Does understanding each other comes first, or understanding yourself first?
I mean, do you fully understand yourself?
So then I can never understand someone else though. So I'm not capable of that. The question I asked you, is there perfect love? So if I cannot fully understand myself and I cannot understand the other party, am I capable of giving
perfect love?
Perfect love.
So I think the best way I look at it is this way. Growing up at schools, we were beaten.
Yeah. In Africa.
We were disciplined. It was discipline, right?
Right.
At home, see, you get disciplined at school, and you are praying they don't tell your uncle, because your uncle will discipline you before they tell your parent. But all of them will tell you one thing. It's because we love you.
Because we love you.
I want you to be successful.
Yeah.
As a child, how do I rationalize that love?
Correction. Is it correction? Is it love? What
is it? Correction? Is it love?
Yeah.
So is it possible that even in the concept of are we correcting because we love, or are we correcting because are you getting my question?
I get your question, and I think you're not answering this question that you're asking.
Ask me the question.
Right. No, I'm just saying, but I think where we go wrong, or what I've seen that goes wrong, is we want to correct our children or correct someone,
our spouses or vice versa, or the
whoever.
children correct their parents,
right? Because of something we've seen. You want to specifically correct a behavior, but then you don't want to extend or continue that love even though that behavior is not corrected.
Okay.
One thing. The second thing is, even we don't know how we communicate that act of correction, or that act of, we don't know how we say it. We say, okay, my child, this and that, but are we really correcting a behavior out of love, or you want to just see that behavior go away?
Okay. So if I'm struggling, my wife, and if I'm struggling with alcohol, does my wife want the alcohol to go away, or does she really love me, that even if I'm in that state, she will still love me? It's not because I'm not abusing, but it's because of who I am. Still, no, this is hard because I'm not there. But it's hard. It's difficult. So when I deduce the stories that we've had in the podcast, when I deduce my story, my own journey, I just come to the conclusion that where there's no perfect love, it is possible, and very possible, to find myself in states of some level of dysfunctionality. And so everything else I do could be that cry of, I want to take my life because this is what will get your attention as my family. Right? I want to be loved so much that whatever it will take for me to get your attention, to give me that love, I will do it. Right? I want to cause alarm to a point that everybody will go and panic
because of
me. So is that's not healthy. But what I'm crying for really
is love.
But then you will start saying, we need to deal with this behavior. He's doing this and that stuff. And then now you focus in the behavior. But really, if that love was there, the behavior will disappear itself because I'll feel loved.
You're making sense, because I think when you love, I think when you demonstrate that love that is selfless, it's other-centered. You're looking at that person and not yourself, because you've already set yourself and you're looking at that person. When you see that, you'll see that person as a person, and you love that person. And some people, Ezra, all they need is to hear them out, to understand them. Then, because some of these things, when kids act out or people act out, it's a cry of help. So then when you address that cry of help by loving and listening to them, sometimes I'm not going to endorse this, but you go and be at that place where they are. So you
understand why. What makes them feel the way they feel when they're there.
And then it kind of, it's not going to be an instant thing. You just have to continue to put that fire. So, and that's easy for me to say.
It's easy for us to say,
right?
But it's hard to really implement that. Right. So we're not negating. We're not saying anybody who's
and every case is different.
Every case is different. I had a story that really amazes me. It's a story of this father who who saw the daughter, dressing in a way that he, as a father, he didn't appreciate that. So he kept on telling her, "You need to change. You can't wear that. You can You can, right?" And so the girl was becoming more rebellious. She was more and all that stuff. So one day the father said, "I've done this, I've done that, I've done that." So they were going out for dinner. So the father is waiting in the car. The young girl walks out and he looks at her, the way she's dressed, to say, "You can't go out like this." She gets into the car and said, "Fine. Allow me, I'm coming." So he goes back in the house, goes upstairs, takes his nice jeans pants, takes a scissor, and cuts them into booty shots. All the way up here. He dresses and he wears them. He comes out from the door with his hairy legs and, everything. And the daughter is looking at the dad like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you dressed like this?" And And she's like, the father said, no, we're going for dinner. That's fine. It's okay. And they're like, "Dad, you can't go out like..." And the moment she said, "You can't go out like that,"
it hit her.
Hit her like, why can't he go out with me like that? Why? "Oh, you're embarrassing me." And the father looks at her and says, "Oh, see, it's just the way he expressed his love was in a loving way that it actually sent a message home. It hit in her heart, but at the same time, it addressed the behavioral issue. And that topic in that house, and never again.
Wow.
I listened to that story. I was like, man, I wish I can get some of those treats. Because for me as Ezra, I want to discipline the behavior.
You want to,
When I see that child running and recklessly breaking things, I want to address. But I don't understand. Maybe this child has not been running at their home. Maybe where they live, they're confined. So rather than sit down and say, "Hey, buddy, what's up? Let's go to the park, run, go tired, sleep." We are quick to address that behavior and not the person itself.
And then if we eliminate that, I think when listen to that story, I mean, love, when you see yourself in others, and simply say, you want to treat others the way you want to be treated. If love is seeing yourself in the other person's shoes, empathizing, and saying, okay, maybe, because then Ezra, if I put myself in your shoes, I'm taking an effort to understand what you're going through. And naturally, I will empathize. And naturally, that it will develop into something more than what I'm,
Mm-hmm.
So then you see past the behavior, you see the person.
Yes.
That father had to demonstrate so that child can see themselves.
Yes.
Yep.
And when I sit down and start now, as we're starting to wind up.
Parting shots now. We have to
Parting
go
shots.
parting shots.
And as I sit down, I wind up and I look at it, I say, in every person who's struggling,
Mm-hmm.
there is a reason
Yeah.
behind it that needs to be known.
Yeah.
If taken time and you address and you handle all that and stuff, I can go PG-13 on these, but I won't, for the sake of I don't know who's going to be listeners.
Yeah.
But even the concept of in Greece, as I start parting on in Greek, love has 4 words. There is phileo. There is phileo is friendship love. There is eros, erotic love, my wife and I. Then there is storge, which is family love, my parents. And then lastly, there is agape. Agape is defined in another form, shape, and world in the sense that it's defined as other-centered. Never at any point is it self-centered. It is always other-centered. Did you eat fast? Did you sleep well? Before it even looks inside, it is other-centered. And it just baffles me because they call it God's love. It's like it never pauses to look at himself. Not even a second is he pause like, what kind of mind? He's always like his eyes are always on you. Yeah. Like it's all about you, never about me. Which now drives home the last point that I'm going to make on this as a part that 2 things. One is that is why God cannot exist in one. Because he cannot be a loving being if he's only by himself.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be 3 in 1. Because the perfect love is expressed in 3, not in 1. And so at the cross, he did not die he died because of our sins. But it's at that moment when he said, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? And then there was that gap, the concept that he will never see his Father again, the other-centered. At that point, he could not see himself living. And he just died. When you see a person to a point that you cannot live without them because you care about them, wow, no substance abuse, no chemical dependency, no this, no that, no matter who it is, you will always find in you the drive, the urge to reach out, to help, and you never get burnt out or get tired because it is other-centered.
Other-centered.
This is what I hope for everyone.
Yeah, we cannot exhaust this concept, but we hope that, we'll come back to this as life, but we have to understand ourselves, understand love, and that's a perfect example of it. So let's leave it there, Ezra.
Let's leave it there.
Better
than psychiatrists, better than psychologists, better than social workers, better than everything. At the heart and the soul of it is love. But we need all these people to express that form of love. That is
the Amazing Truth Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Amazing Truth Podcast. We hope you were blessed as you listened. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. God bless you, and see you on the next one.